Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Veteran's Point of View. I am your host, Mario. Before we get started, guys, I do want to point out that, we want to continue this podcast and making sure that it gets out to the masses and that we're able to provide good content for all of you guys. I would appreciate it if you would support our podcast. I do include a lot of that information on my description aspect of my podcast. Um, anything that you would love to help out with is just understand that 100% of those funds go into maintaining our content and be able to provide you guys with some great information. All right, guys, in today's topic, we're going to talk about three things in order for you to improve or start your VA disability claim. Now, some of the things that I'm going to talk about with VA disability are things that I've experienced, things that could probably help you improve or start your VA disability claim. For all you guys that don't know about VA disability claims, these are all pretty much based on your time in service or how much service you did and whether you had any injuries during your time in the military that are consistent with being service connected injuries. So I'm going to give you guys three things that I feel are lacking in a lot of these claims that a lot of veterans have a tendency of putting. A lot of it is just simple stuff that you guys really need to just focus on. Understand that the bureaucracy of the VA is really just based on how you can best describe your issues, the who, what, when, and where, and making sure that that type of information is passed on or is written correctly when you are putting in your claim information. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those aspects, but I also want to discuss a little bit about VA disability and how this works for a lot of our civilian folks who may be listening to this podcast. So, many of our service members, after they have, completed their service and all that good stuff, many of them have a lot of pre-existing conditions or conditions that happen during their military service. Biggest issue that you see a lot is your back, knees, issues with your shoulders and sometimes even your feet, your ankles. A lot of it is just because of the nature of the beast of military service. Military service, you're doing a lot of pulling, pushing, walking, standing on in places for long periods of time, and at the same time carrying a lot of weight, or exposed to a lot of noise or light, and these are all things that will affect you as you start getting older. I would always encourage a lot of our veterans who are, leaving military service to make sure that they put in their claims regardless, because as you start getting older, what you might have thought was just a small little ache that you had can turn out to be a major aspect. So, the reason why I like to always tell everybody to do them as soon as you can is that things happen in life. You move, you lose items or whatever the case, or you may forget as to how you got hurt and all that good stuff. Dates, which is always a big thing. So I'd always tell, a lot of our veterans friends out there, do that as soon as you get out of the military. And regardless of what it is, just understand that what may be minor right now as you're younger. Let's say you're getting out in your 20s or 30s. By the time you get to my age, which I'm 50 now, those things will start coming back to you and you'll definitely feel it. So one of the main things that I feel, and I've noticed that with a lot of my friends, is that they need to get organized. And what I mean by being organized is basically gathering all your documents, all your medical documents. And in some cases, a lot of our veteran friends do not have all of their military records. So I'm going to just tell you guys real quick how to obtain your medical records. Majority of them are going to be through archives.gov, or if for some reason you cannot find what you're looking for, you might need to go to the HRC website. And just understand the Human Resources Command websites are for pretty much every branch of service has their own. You just have to Google it and look for it. Many of them have 800 numbers on which you can call, or you can actually leave them an email, and they usually get back to you within 72 hours or so. I've used them in the past. They have actually been really helpful in finding certain documents that were missing from my file. And after doing some research at their end, they were able to find me the documents that I needed. So getting organized is a big deal, okay? It is really what's going to make or break your claim as you start putting it in. So I would always tell you, try to get those from archives.gov. If for some reason you're still not able to find it, go through your individual branch, whichever branch you served, Human Resources Command, and gather those documents. So what happens to many of our friends that were in the National Guard or Air National Guard? And I'm just speaking specifically for these two types of branches. One, because I know a lot about them, and usually these are the two major branches that have a tendency of service members not having all their documents, and it's harder for them to get the benefits that they need. So this is why I'm kind of including this in the podcast. So if you happen to serve in the Air National Guard or the Army National Guard, just understand that a lot of these entities belong to the state. So you actually have to contact the state surgeon's office for that state. I happen to live in California. You contact the state surgeon's office in California. They are usually located in Sacramento or nearby area like that, or the headquarters of that state National Guard, and they're able to help you gather all the documents. You'll be surprised how many pieces of documents I had until I requested them. Actually, I ended up getting a huge box because I requested them as hard copies, and I ended up getting this huge box at home, and I was like, what the heck is this? And couldn't find out it was on my medical records. Now, you can request them as hard copies, or you can request digital, and they usually will send you like a disc with all those documents in there. Okay? So I just wanted to point that out. So going back to getting organized. Getting organized is really, trying to, place all your documents based on dates, which is a huge thing as you start to research and look for the stuff that you're looking for, right? Anyway, so as I was stating, gathering all of the documents that you're going to need, and you want to kind of separate them based on the type of claims that you want to do. For example, let's say you have a lot of issues with your knees. Try to find other documents that have like periodic health assessments for that year. And a periodic health assessment is basically a yearly checkup, just to put it in civilian terms. Gather any sick call slips. And what I mean by sick call slips is that think of the military having like their own little urgent care. So when you go and see a medic for sick call, usually at the end of it, you get a slip. And this slip usually goes to your command and let them know whether you are clear to return back to duty or if you need some sort of limitations that prevent you from getting injured even further. A lot of people have a tendency of forgetting about sick call slips, and these are a great pieces of document that justify um, putting in a claim for your needs or whatever the case may be. Let's say you went to sick call and you went and talked to the medic about having knee pain or whatever, and they usually put that in the sick call slip, and it's a great way for you to document your issues. And these are usually documents that they usually request. The VA has a tendency of wanting to know when it started, and usually having a sick call slip is kind of like the starting point, if you know what I mean. So get yourself organized based on the elements of whatever you got going on. Another example, and this is a very common example within our veteran community, a lot of us have tinnitus. You know, the ringing in the ear. A lot of it is just because you've been exposed to um, a lot of, noise, or in some cases, um, no fault of your own. You got into a lot of firefights when you were deployed overseas, and all that noise has affected your hearing. So I would tell you, gather all of the documents that have anything to do with your hearing test. Have them be part of your claim that you're trying to do. So this is what I mean by getting organized, guys. It's just gathering all the documents you're going to put in for that particular claim that you're doing. Okay. So just understand that every claim or every issue that you have requires a claim. So, for example, if you have a bad back, you will, uh, get all the documents that you need for that. If you have like sick call slips where you've actually gone to the medic and explained to them that you have an issue with your back, you want to include those. So just gathering all those documentations and try to do it from the oldest to the newest, so you can see that there's a history there. Okay. So I would also tell you that prior to you going onto the website, because the website is actually pretty user friendly when you're trying to do a lot of the claims on yourself. I would always encourage a lot of you guys to do the claims yourselves. One, nobody's really going to understand what you've been through or how you've done things by having somebody else write the stuff for you. I would always tell you is get yourself, write it down. Write your statement before you're gonna, you're getting ready to put it on the actual website. What I used to do is I used to pretty much create like a Microsoft Word doc and create a title for every element that I had. So, have an issue with my lower back, I would write my statement, and I would put in the approximate date or time that you thought you first got hurt with it. What are some of the things that you did as you started going? Well, obviously, you want to describe what happened. So let's say you messed up your back, and it was due to a ruck march. You did a ruck march, 12-mile ruck march, and you were wearing your, 100 pounds worth of equipment. On top of that, you were wearing a vest, which is 80 pounds. So you write down all that kind of stuff, and you kind of create a history for yourself. You start telling them, I got hurt on this time, and then I did a follow-up, and I had this other stuff going on, and you write all that stuff down. Just understand that you have a lot of space for you to write all that stuff when you start going and doing it on the actual VA website. But I understand there's a lot of you guys out there that are not uh, very articulate, or maybe do not have all the time in the world to go and submit all your claims or whatever the case may be. um, you can go two routes. You can go and get yourself a lawyer. Understand that lawyers do charge fees, and in most cases, once they feel like, because they're going to do an assessment on you, and based on what they see, they'll understand that whether you qualify for 100% or more or less, or whatever the case may be. So they have a goal in place as to, based on your issues, what type of rating you're going to get. But just understand, at the end of all that, you do have to pay that VA lawyer for their services, which honestly, I really feel like it's a waste of time. Because if you do a lot of this stuff and take your time and do it right, you should be fine. I'm not going to lie to you. I probably spent a good week trying to write all my statements down, try to gather all the information, and making sure that everything makes sense. Now you're going to understand that's a whole week or whatever. Well, yeah, I was on terminal leave. Basically, I had all the time in the world, and I decided I'm going to take time and I'm going to write down this stuff real good, because in the long run, it's probably going to benefit me and my family. So I decided to do that. Now, there are other veteran organizations out there that may do the service for you free of charge. Understand, the issue with them is that many of them have huge caseloads. I know a friend of mine that actually works in a veteran services center, and this center is actually run by the county, and they do a tremendous job. They do an awesome job in trying to help a lot of our fellow veterans. But in most cases, they have huge caseloads, right? And the problem is that by the time they get to your stuff, it's gonna sometimes be months ahead before you even see any action on it. So just understand that I would always encourage a lot of you guys to do this yourself. Sorry, because it's your stuff. It's your story you're trying to tell, and it's your medical issues that you're trying to tell to the VA. In about as plain English as you can, with timelines and documentation to prove your case. Another great way to ensure that that the VA understands your issues is by having a buddy statement. So a buddy statement is anybody who served with you, who might have been witness to something that happened to you that caused you to have a medical issue. And you want to make sure that those buddy statements are of any of your battle buddies that deploy with you. Because in most cases, and I'm not sure if the VA still does that, but they usually would want to see a unit order. And you're going to say, what the heck is a unit order? Well, basically, a unit order is an order that says your unit was assigned to deployed overseas, or whatever the case may be. And in most cases, the unit order has a roster of people that have that are deployed with that unit. So you want to make sure that you include that as part of your buddy statement, so that way they understand that, hey, this person actually did serve with the claimant, and that this buddy statement is legit. So those are the three things that I feel, if people would just make time and do things right, you always are going to get a higher rating through the VA when you start doing your disability claims and stuff like that. In some cases, the VA may request for additional information. Just understand that sometimes, if you have not written your statement in a way that they can understand it, or they require further information, you might need to have that. Okay, so those are the three things that I've always noticed with guys that are putting in their claims and they're not getting the claims that they need. So if for some reason you have to resubmit a claim or you go through an appeal process and they tell you, okay, go ahead and resubmit it, or and we'll take a look at it again. I would tell you to ensure that you look at your statement again, the statement that you did previously, and in some cases it might be just something simple that you forgot, and rewrite it in a way that makes sense to them. You know, my old commander used to have this saying, you know, why don't you paint me a picture whenever I try to describe to him an issue, or if I was doing some sort of reconnaissance for him. He had this thing of paint me the picture. So it sounds stupid, but at the same time, you really stop and think about it, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to paint the picture of how you got hurt, when you got hurt, supporting documentations, and submitting all that stuff. I would also encourage you to do this yourself. It's not hard, guys. The VA website is not really that hard. But like I said, there are ways that you can get services done. You can go through a lawyer and just understand that there is a fee for their services, or you can go to a Veteran Services Center. In most cases, every county or every city has one, and many other services are free, which is always good. But just understand that it's kind of hard for you to tell your story to somebody who wasn't there. And in some cases, they may not word it in a way that makes sense, and you may not be getting the rating you deserve, you know? So I would always tell you, do it yourself, because only you know what you went through and why the reasons you're going through all this stuff. To make a long story short, by the time I was done with my VA claim, I must have had like 40 things that I put a claim on. You got to understand, guys, I was in tanks for 10 years. And after that, I was in an infantry unit for 10 years. So there was a lot of wear and tear in my body. I am telling you, I might be 50 years old, but I feel like I'm 65. And I'm telling you, just getting out of bed sometimes is an adventure. So I mean, I would always tell you, you know what, if you did so much to your body, you know, the least you can get is to make sure that you're compensated for it, and making sure that you're also helping those loved ones that are part of your life. You know, based on your rating, in some cases, there's a lot of good benefits that you can get out there. Even though I live in a communist state of California, there is definitely a lot of good benefits here, and they're actually quite surprising. For example, if you have a VA rating, disability rating of 100, you can have your property taxes cut in half. And I take full advantage of that. You know, the state of California actually offers you one car registration that you no longer ever have to pay. You know, I take advantage of that. There's a lot of other stuff out there that you may not really know, and it's just a matter of you doing some research and getting that stuff taken care of. Just understand, at this point, you have done everything you could for your country. Now it's time for you to take care of yourself and your family, and making sure that you have the benefits that you need are going to be crucial as you start getting older. So these are my 3 tips, guys, of what I feel are ways that you can improve your disability rating, or when starting a disability claim. And I hope that my information was somewhat helpful, and that you gain something out of this. Just understand that a lot of the stuff that I'm talking to you about is stuff where I actually had to help a fellow veteran, a good friends of the family and stuff like that, improve their VA rating. And these are the issues that I've seen in many other claims. So believe me, everything I'm telling you guys is based on experience and what I've been able to gather over these years. Okay, guys. So, anyways, that is all I got. Of course, if you guys have any suggestions or anything you guys want to add, you're welcome to send me an email. Send me an email and make sure you put on the subject like veterans point of view. And my email address is kings, KINGS 1512 at Yahoo. And if you have any suggestions or anything you guys would like to talk about, please let me know. I'm also looking for anybody who wants to come on the podcast as a guest. I would love to have you. Anybody who's interested in being part of my guest, it's always welcome. I want to be able to give other veterans a voice and be able to help them in any kind of way. And sometimes they might just want to tell their story. And this is the whole purpose of this podcast. All right, guys, this is all I got. Like always, God bless you. God bless the United States of America.